And I'm going to admit everybody and we'll let it roll.
Great.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon for our Wasteless Wednesday. While we're waiting for some additional people to join us, I'm going to put out some polling questions for you to complete. Just 3 easy ones, right? Thank you. And Leanna, if you could keep an eye on the waiting room, thank you. Ooh, nice mix. All right, so while some of you guys are finishing up those polling questions, good afternoon. And again, welcome to our 4th Wasteless Wednesday. I'll be your MC again for today's event. My name is Bridget Gregory Trites, and I am the Senior Waste Reduction and Recycling Coordinator for the Johns Hopkins University Homewood campus. For anybody who is new to these, each week we'll be joined by a new sustainability professional to explore a different topic related to waste. Our host will spend a couple minutes talking about the topic, and then we'll start talking about questions to include the group in and explore the ideas a little bit more deeply. Couple housekeeping items. The event is being recorded and will be shared with everybody on our listserv. So if you have to step out, no problem. If you're interested, please go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat box. We want these events to be social, and using the chat box is a big component. So feel free to do that if you are, if you want to. Also share your school or organization that you're with or from. Please also feel free to unmute yourself during the presentation. These are pretty informal socials, so don't feel the need to have to like raise your hand in the call out box. Instead, just be courteous. Try not to talk over top of other people, but feel free to unmute yourself and ask a question or mention an idea or thought. But otherwise, please try to keep yourself muted to limit background noise. So that's not a huge issue. Again, if you're having any other technical issues, feel free to reach out to me, Bridget, in the chat room, and I will help get those fixed. Again, if you're just joining us, welcome, welcome. Please complete those polling questions just so we have an idea who's with us this evening. And I'm gonna start introducing our host and topic for the day. Today I'm joined by Margaret Bounds. Margaret has served as the Assistant Director of Sustainability at Connecticut College since January 2017. And I apologize because on some of the promos for the event, I kept writing College of Connecticut, and I don't know why I did that. So Connecticut College. In this role, she oversees Sustainability Fellows Program, data collection, sustainability planning. She is also currently Secretary of the College and University Recycling Coalition, CURC. From 2010 to 2016, she was Coordinator of Environmental Sustainability for University Housing at the University of South Carolina. She received a Bachelor of Arts degree in Environmental Policy from Barnard College and a Master of Science degree in International Development and the Environment from the University of East Anglia. Am I pronouncing that correct?
Yeah, Anglia, yeah.
Anglia, sorry. She and her husband, Joey, are parents to Rosemary, who is about to start her 7-month in cloth diapers. Pre-pandemic, she could often be found on campus pulling recyclables out of trash cans. Woohoo, I like it. Margaret will be leading our discussion today about child and parent waste. And I also should share that I also have a daughter who will be 8 months next week as well. So we have lots in common. So I'm very curious. This will be a very fun conversation.
Maybe if people also want to say in the chat the age of their children.
Yes, please do that. If you have children, or you're going to have children, or you have older children, feel free to share it. You have nephews, nieces, friends that have children. Feel free to share that too. Yeah, so welcome, Margaret. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and let you take the reins.
All right. So I will start sharing my screen. Okay, hopefully you can see my presentation now. Okay, great.
Good.
And let's see, should I do the first poll question right away? Okay.
Yeah. So Margaret had a couple of polling questions that just two that are kind of pertinent to her topic and discussion today. So some of those were things that we just were saying, maybe mention in the chat. So if you could go ahead and just fill out those, that poll, then we can kind of use that to chat further. And they're slowly coming in, Margaret. So I will. Okay,
perfect.
Once we've got a good chunk of them, I will share the results.
Okay, great. So just hi everyone again, I'm Margaret from Connecticut College. Like Bridget said, I have a 7-month-old daughter, my first child. So I'm very deep in the baby waste place right now. So I'm really excited to hopefully learn from some of you all about older children and what we should be doing now to like prep for other types of baby waste. And so I'm just going to start us off with a couple of slides just to kind of get our brains turning about the kind of waste that comes with having kids. So let me see. Oh, we got a little bit of crying happening in the background. So the first, I just kind of split my thinking about waste into two categories. Waste that you have some control over, and then waste that you maybe don't really have control over. So the types of things that you might be able to control through different practices are like what types of diapers you use, whether you choose disposable or cloth, what types of wipes you choose, where you buy baby clothes, whether you buy used or new, what kind of baby food containers, and really older children, what kind of food you're buying for them and how you're packaging their lunches and things. Those are all choices that you can make kind of in your own home to try and reduce the amount of waste. And I did look up just some background. It's estimated that in your child's first 2.5 years, they'll use almost 4,000 diapers, probably at least that many wipes, but maybe double that many wipes. And then I know there have been a lot of things that have come out recently saying that having a child is sort of the #1 contributor to your carbon footprint. So there's been a lot of, pressure to think about how our children, I guess, impact the world, and what we're kind of choosing for them does really have an environmental impact. So then the waste that you maybe can't always control are things like gifts from grandparents, friends, especially grandparents for us, because I feel like there's a package that arrives every day with some new outfit for the baby. Goodie bags from kids' parties. I think we all experienced that as children too, where you get like the eraser and a pencil, but you have 20 other pencils, so you didn't really need that. Also, what your daycare accepts. Some daycares won't accept cloth diapers, so if you wanted to use cloth diapers, you might still have to buy disposables for daycare. And then I put the growth chart on here too, because I think I've just had to make peace with the fact that your kids are always growing, so you will need to buy new things for them as they reach new stages. So you can't just keep feeling guilty about that. We just sort of have to accept that, like, they're going to need clothes that fit them, and you can't control whether they grow out of a size quicker than you think they're going to. So those are just some of the things that I was thinking about when I was brainstorming how to set up this session. I'm just looking at the poll results.
So I just ended the polling, so we'll go ahead and share those results with everybody so you guys can all see them.
Okay. Just a lot of people interested in minimizing waste, a few babies, and people planning for future children. So hopefully this will be helpful for you all. Okay, only a few people interested specifically in cloth diapers. I wasn't sure if that was going to be like a big source of question, so I won't go into my cloth diaper.
I think it would be a good story to maybe people are not interested in actually doing it, but I think it's good story to share for just getting the idea of how to make such a choice. It requires a lot of foresight and planning, and honestly I feel like any decision that you try to put into place with a kid, specifically trying to do a zero waste thing, requires a lot of foresight and planning. So this is just one example, but I think you should, because I think I personally find it very interesting. I am an example of someone who has not used cloth diapers. I work for a recycling office. So we can play pro and con.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so I'll talk a little bit about cloth diapers before we dive into just our discussion questions. But if you have questions while I'm talking, feel free to jump in. So I just sort of felt like I wanted to do cloth diapers, knowing that I work in sustainability. And I did a lot of research, is it really better than just disposables because you have to use the water and the dryer? For me, it did come out that I felt like cloth diapers were better, but that was partly based on our situation. We live in a house, we have our own washer and dryer, we have a bathroom where we can attach the poop sprayer to the toilet, which is critical. So if you don't have the access to all of those things, then probably cloth diapers would not be good for you. Also, we had the privilege of having the money up front to pay for the diapers in advance versus just paying as we go along, because it is a pretty big investment up front, even though in the long term you probably save money. So for us, I did make a diaper slide just in case people want all the information. I found it really overwhelming when I started looking into cloth diapers because there are 9 different types. The flat and pre-fold is your classic old style diaper with the big safety pins.
Yeah.
That was not going to be for us. So we use what's called an all-in-two. So I do have my props here. So
nice.
This is our diaper. And it's just got a liner inside that snaps out. So that's the one that we went with for daytime. So we have 24 of the inserts and 8 of the covers, and that's plenty if we're doing laundry basically every other day. If you wanted to do less frequent laundry, you would have to have more than that. We found that wasn't doing it for overnight for us while we were having a lot of accidents in the crib and having to change the sheet in the middle of the night and everything. So now for overnight, we use a hemp fitted diaper, which looks like this. So the whole diaper is the absorbent material. And we use a wool cover with it, which makes me feel really some kind of earth mother. Because I didn't even know that a wool cover was a thing, but wool is naturally absorbent, so it just if there is a leak, it sort of absorbs it itself and then air dries in the night. So we really haven't had any leaks since we've started using those. So, and if anyone wants like more details on what diapers we use, feel free to message me, or I can put it in the chat during the discussion too. And then because we were using cloth diapers, we do use reusable wipes that I sewed out of just like flannel, so that we don't have to have a trash can and a diaper pail in the nursery.
So with your reusable wipes, I'm just gonna jump in because I've got like a billion things going on in my head. Okay, so number one, reusable diapers. Have you seen an increase in your water bill?
I think a little bit, but it really hasn't been noticeable.
Okay.
I think an increase in your water bill is just going to happen from the thousands of loads of laundry that you do with a baby.
Right.
I know, is it kind of, yeah. So I know a lot of, one of the reasons why I was like, oh, you know, I'm not going to worry too much because of the water bill. One of the reasons why we didn't do it was, I talked to a lot of people who had done it, and a lot of them were like, it's not worth it. Also, pre-pandemic, we were not planning on being home, and a lot of the caretakers we were talking to, including my mother, was like, hell no, I'm not going to use cloth diapers. So wasn't a very viable option. What about the reusable wipes? Do you just use them like dry? Do you use like cream or something? I never even thought about that, to be honest.
Yeah, we use like a diaper cream. I can't remember what it's called, but it's just sort of like a little like a lotion. So we just like squirt it on.
Yep.
And that works pretty well. I think it's sort of like olive oil based. So it just also helps like keep the moisture off of the baby's skin once you like wipe it on. Yeah.
So how long does it?
I'm going to jump in real quick. Claude brought up a point, and I think it's really important. And anytime anyone goes into this decision, and you kind of touched on it, Bridget, but yes, you know, you need to think about your caregivers and stuff, but one of the biggest challenges I think in any parenting relationship is that there are usually, not always, but
True.
many times there's two of you.
Yep.
I wanted to do cloth diapers, and my husband did not. And Claude mentions a slightly different story, but I basically had to accept that if we were doing cloth diapers, I was the one that was going to be cleaning them, and I did. So just, you know, if you have to have that kind of conversation with your partner about what you're willing to do, and if they're not willing to do it, then you have to kind of like accept whether you're going to be all in or you're going to make a sacrifice and a compromise. So it was, you know, definitely, I'm glad that I did it, but you know, it could be frustrating, but I had to remind myself when I was the one doing it that I was the one who wanted to do it, you know. So just have those honest conversations with your partner, and before you go into it. And then the other thing that Claude mentioned, which I think is really important, is in the beginning, like I don't know if you did, Margaret, but we didn't start using cloth diapers until our son was probably at least like 2 months old. It's really, really, really tough when they're infants. So if you are thinking about trying it and you try it when they're newborn, you might want to give up, but trust me, like if you're really into it, it gets easier as they get bigger. So that's just a little tip.
Yeah, we did use disposables for the first like 25 days or month, because theoretically the diapers we have say you can put them on a newborn, but we like looked at it and we looked at the baby and we were just like, this doesn't make sense. So we did wait a little bit to use them until she had gained a little bit of weight. Yeah. Okay, yeah, I was just looking at the chat again. Yeah, and I would say I was lucky my husband was like on board, even though he's not really in the sustainability world. And I actually had like delegated choosing what style of cloth diapers to him, which maybe made him more on board, because I was like, you can research like what types there are, and like if you want to go with the all-in-ones or whatever, like you can pick what we were going to use. And so I think that made him more invested in like what what we ended up choosing, and then he knew like if it wasn't working out, like he had picked the style that we were using, so he was a little bit more like into it, which was good. Okay, cool. So I'll just go back to the discussion questions.
Did you want to do the word cloud?
Oh yeah. So one thing that we found is that often our daughter is just like more amused by random things in our house than the toys that we've actually bought her. So I thought it would be fun to hear from everyone what your child's like favorite toy is or was that isn't actually a toy. So we've got a little word cloud poll that Bridget. So I need to stop sharing. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. Okay, cool. So I am going to put into the chat box right now the link here, and what we're going to have you guys do is write in okay, so go to the link that's in the chat box right now, and that'll take you to this website, and you can just put like your first name in, and then it'll ask you to put in what was your child's, or maybe it was yours, maybe, maybe if you remember, you had a favorite something, if you don't have kids or don't know of anybody who does have kids, that was like a favorite toy that really wasn't a toy. And then I will put this into presenter mode so you can see. There we go. Cool. I'm surprised nobody has done the one that I would do for my daughter yet. But also my daughter is very young, so some of these other ones might be coming later. Let's see.
Is anybody, I think it's only letting me add 2.
Yes, it's only going to let you, I'm going to apologize, it's only going to let you add 2, but just for the purpose of making sure that everybody got a chance to do it.
And I just saw someone in the chat posted that you can do a diaper service, which is like a good option if you can afford it, and you want to do cloth diapers. That's actually, when I was born, my grandparents gave my mom like a diaper service as their like baby shower gift. So that's why she did cloth diapers. And I think that would make it like a lot easier.
People had trouble convincing daycare. Yeah. I think there's only, I know like Leanna, you said that you were able to find a place, and I don't know, Margaret, were you able to find somewhere that would accept the cloth diapers?
We did. We were really surprised because we didn't think that we would, but we had 2 daycare options, and one of them will take cloth diapers. It's actually a part of like a chain called Bright Horizons. I think they often take cloth diapers. If there's one in your area, you could look, because it seemed like they were a little bit more willing to use them.
Yeah, we our daycare did take cloth diapers, but they would not take glass bottles.
Oh, interesting.
Yep.
See, now that will be an issue for me because I have the glass bottle.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm loving these. Lots of cardboard, Tupperware, pans, pots.
With wooden spoons, banging, lots of banging.
Driveway aluminum. So and like, again, kind of getting, I'm assuming to your point, Margaret, with this is that like, these are things that are readily available, have multiple uses for us in our normal lives, and yet our kids think they're fast. Do we think this is because we utilize them, and so our kids are therefore then interested in them?
Yeah, I'm really surprised I don't see car keys.
I saw a car.
Oh, maybe it got split up, but car keys was a huge one. And the funny thing is that they make like baby car keys.
Yeah.
And my son wanted nothing to do with the baby car keys. He only wanted my car keys. And that I think is a good point, Bridget, that they see us using all these things. And I will share an embarrassing story that I actually stupidly went to go visit my husband on maternity leave and brought the baby out, like showed everybody in the office, then put him back in the car, and was just chatting with my husband outside of the car and let my son hold. He was probably, well, maybe it was on maternity leave. He was a little bit bigger, but like he was holding my car keys and I have the fob boop, boop lock, and he locked himself in the car. And we basically spent like all this time trying to like tell him what button to push. And my husband's boss had to call the fire department and show up to my husband's work and let my son out, unlock the car and get him free. And it was so embarrassing. But anyway, yeah, so they love car keys. Just don't give them ones when they have the little lock button.
That's funny, yeah. Our daughter, well, we haven't gone, we like don't go anywhere, so she hasn't discovered the car keys yet, probably. But, aluminum can, that's her thing. Like, I think one time she knocked one over by accident, and that was hilarious. So now just an empty one is like so much fun. And so I was sort of bringing this up to show like sometimes it feels like, especially right now, we need to have a lot of things to entertain our kids.
Oh my gosh, yes.
But it might not always have to be something you buy. It can maybe be something new that you like find in your house, like an empty bottle or that you put beans in or something, and they'll probably be happy playing with it, instead of thinking like, oh, I need to buy a new toy.
For sure.
Yeah, and I found that like for my son who's 9, and maybe more so, I mean, still nowadays, I mean, this is a little bit more difficult now, but like maybe when he's a little bit younger too, is just swapping toys with friends, because they always want to play with somebody else's stuff, like whatever is new, but it doesn't need to be new. And somebody had mentioned in the chat that there are tons of like parent swap Facebook pages and those kinds of things. And I will say that, we were just talking last night on one of our events about the newest letter that about 115 scientists have signed on to, that really are dispelling some of the previous conceptions about how the coronavirus is spread, and that on material it is a lot less likely that you'd be able to transmit the virus through material things. So either way though, I mean, I think that regardless of whether, there's no transmission or the other previous information that we knew, which was about, 3 days at least, I think it's really safe to pack things up, put them in a bag, and let them sit for a couple days and then share them with someone. So I think that might be, if you have moms groups, it's just fun for you too. Like I know, Bridget, you were saying you were tired of the same toys. There's only so many games you can play with the same toys, and
sometimes I can listen to that noise.
Yeah. So, so swapping that way will just be a really great way to, change it up, have something new to do, to play with.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
But I do also love your question about, or at least it was mentioned, I think, in the beginning in the polls, and you mentioned also like what you can't control, and that is gifts.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that like I had to have a conversation with my parents and my mother-in-law, because my mother-in-law loves to just buy random junk. And my husband is not on this call, but he knows it. So I basically said to her, I was like, every single time you want to spend $25 on something, please just write a check, or for his 529 plan or for a savings account or she's way into bonds. Cause that was a thing back then. I'm like, and she doesn't do it necessarily, but it's certainly cut back a lot. Like I was able to sort of shift her mindset. And instead of me saying, I don't want the junk that you're buying my child, it was like, hey, this is a better way to show your love for my son and your grandson. You know what I mean? And then my mom was really respectful. I just said, look, I will tell you what I need and I will try to point you in the direction of things that I really want. And then there was a little bit of tension between mom and mother-in-law because mother-in-law didn't get the message and my mom did. And so then mother-in-law would show up with grandma would show up with a bunch of fun toys all the time. And my mom was like, wait a minute, now like he loves her more, So there's like all these like family politics when it comes to toys, and gifts. So anybody else have any suggestions?
Yeah, that was one of my discussion questions. So I'd love to hear from anyone else if you have ideas about how to talk to others, even if it's not your family, like with other parents or with your daycare, if you've had a conversation like, would you consider taking cloth diapers?
You want to bring questions back up?
Oh, yeah, sure.
I am dreading personally having this conversation with my both mother-in-law and mother because I think both of them are like, my daughter is the first baby on the first grandchild on the one side and third on my mom's, but it doesn't matter. It's still gonna be a big deal.
Are you seeing the question?
No, we just see that you're.
No.
It says sharing is paused. Let me try again.
Patrick has a great suggestion.
Yes.
To hide toys and then bring them back out later. That's a great idea. I hide them now and then I get rid of them. I'll hide things, and if he doesn't ask for them for a long time, then I know it's okay to get rid of them. But I like your idea, Patrick.
Cool.
All right. So.
And I also saw Jenny wrote. They wrote like no gifts on birthday invitations. So, and that it's great for one, then you don't have to get a ton of stuff, but then it's also great for, the people who are coming to your wedding because I don't feel like they have to go out and shop and worry about, do you have this? Do you not have this? All that does.
Yeah, we've also, so Crosby's older now. And so what he'll do is he'll pick a charity that he's really interested in. And so then we'll say on the invitation, like, do not feel the need to bring any gifts if you want to contribute. And so Crosby has picked like the SPCA. Oh, well, the first time it was the SPCA and everybody brought like we went on the wish list for the SPCA site. And I forgot to tell my mom. And so she showed up to the birthday party and there were like dog treats and dog toys. And she was very confused. But since then, we've done just like donations like to the World Wildlife Fund or the Sunrise Movement. And so he gets to research the organizations that he's interested in. And then people will, not everybody does, and that's perfect. Like and parents, I know you'll appreciate not having to buy a gift for every million birthday parties you go to once they're in elementary school. So it's nice.
Hi, can I share something?
Yes.
So I don't have a child myself, but my sister just had a baby, and for her baby shower, she really wanted to do a zero waste baby shower, and really asked for previously loved toys, whatever it was. People had a really difficult time with that, I will say, because people really want to go on a registry and get you things. So she ended up still getting tons and tons of stuff. I have found other registries where you can go on, kind of like how some people do for honeymoons. Instead of like items, they say just like, give me a honeymoon fund. And so they have things like that. If even for birthday parties, you can say like, can you donate your time or donate this service, whatever it is. So, but we really tried. We really said like, baby's gone green, please no, whatever.
I love that.
So I think people really like to give things. So I think giving them options or saying like, maybe try going to, this like reuse store, something like that is helpful for people who might not be as familiar.
I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. If you remember any of those, the websites or anything, feel free to throw them in the chat because that's really awesome.
Yeah, I'll look them up real quick.
Yeah.
Rachel just put in Encore Baby Registry.
Nice.
Rachel, if you want to talk about that.
No worries if you don't want to.
Yeah.
Hi, sorry. It's a little
That's
noisy
okay.
where I am. Yeah, so I had a friend with she just had a baby a year ago, and they used Encore Baby Registry. So they asked for parents that were friends to donate items that we had, like different sizes of clothes, and also baby gear that we had. So it was like we could still give them a gift, but without buying anything new.
Awesome.
Yeah, I love that. The other thing that I had heard, I've never heard of these, which I think it's such a great idea. My sisters, I'm probably the most eco guru in my house and my personal family, and they all really tried to do like a zero waste baby shower for me, and they did a very good job, but like they didn't even attempt to do anything with the gifts. So to their credit, they did even try to make it a zero waste event in and of itself. So I'll give them that. But I have heard like a lot of people, I've heard like doing like books, like having or either that for your birthday or for a baby shower, getting like books, which would be, I think, super handy because we read so many books. Although one of the things that I haven't done yet is look to see if our library is open yet, because I cannot wait to be able to go to the library and get some new books.
Our library just started doing curbside pickup. I don't know if that's everywhere yet, but yeah, now we can like, you put in like a little form of what books you want and then that you can pick them up. So I'm excited for that.
Yes. It's the little things.
Yes. Yeah, the books are just for us at this point, right?
I know. I know. Just, I can't read Where Is My Cat one more time.
Right.
My daughter's favorite book.
I'll take some books to the office, Bridget, next time you go in.
Thank you. I like this. I'm reading Jenny's comment, sorry. That you can focus on things that you want to buy new for your registry: shampoo, diaper, cream, thermometer, and car seat and other safety things. I know one of the things, like I am totally fine talking about older kids. I'm sorry because I keep reverting back to babies because that's what we have right now. One of the things I was super nervous about doing was my crib. So my crib is actually, and I wish I had a picture, but I don't, my husband's crib from when he was a child, and it's like 33 years old. And it was homemade by his father and grandfather. And it's still in excellent condition. And I read lots of things about like not using these certain kinds of cribs and things. And, I finally decided, I was like, no, like we were almost basically able to get in it and be very comfortable in it. So I was like, I think it's going to be safe. But I was super, super nervous because they write all these things and there's so much pressure about being like, you've got the SID stuff, you've got the everything that the hospital is throwing at you and the media is throwing at you. And you're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be a bad parent. But like, you got to use a little bit of common sense too. So it's hard.
Yeah.
What other stuff we got on here? What about feeling the environmental or the guilt about the environmental impact of your children? 'Cause I think that's a very relatable question.
Bridget, the person on that joined last night who mentioned one of the best things that you can do for the environment, and I think Margaret, you mentioned this too, is to either not have any children or only have one child. That was one of the centers at Johns Hopkins, the Bloomberg School of Public Health, is the Family and Population Center. And that was a big message whenever we would have sustainability meetings, and he would join. And it's a super valid point. It's a very touchy topic for anyone to tell anyone about their reproductive rights. But I think it is very important for people to consider. And I think no matter what you buy or don't buy or reuse, or there's obviously a huge impact, and all I would say is that do your damn best to make that kid as environmentally friendly and a good human being, and because Lord knows we need a lot more people in this world to help make it a better place. And so I think that should try to relieve yourself of that guilt by just making sure that you're raising your children to be, good stewards and good humans. So.
Yeah, I think that's sort of how I've rationalized it, as like, well, we're going to raise the next generation that will be more environmentally conscious and can, like you say, help make the world a better place and maybe deal with some of the consequences that we've brought on. But it is definitely real. And it was, we had a whole series of events last year on climate change, and we used that study that sort of broke down like what are the biggest things you can do to prevent climate change. And I think flying was maybe number 2, or maybe it was eating a vegetarian diet. I can't remember now, but the number 1 was the don't or have one fewer child. But we always sort of skipped over that, and it was definitely uncomfortable. And some people brought it up, and I was actually pregnant at the time, so it was sort of weird I was sometimes presenting on it, it was the biggest thing you can do is not have a child. But I think, obviously you have kids for lots of reasons. So it's not always an easy thing to just choose not to have a child. But
I think on the counter side of that is people feeling that they don't feel comfortable bringing a child into the world, given all of the, the mess that we are leaving for them. So, I think it kind of goes both ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have heard that especially from some student age.
Mm-hmm.
Some of our students have said I don't know that I'll want to have kids. I mean that might change as they get older, but it's interesting that already people are thinking about that. When they're in college, I might not want to have children. Based on the current situation.
Yeah, I'm wondering if anyone with older children has tips for how to make little mini environmentalists out of our children, make them be able to, encourage them to care about the environment beyond maybe just recycling. I feel like that is starting to get pretty well covered in school, especially, or at least hopefully. What are things that you've done or you've seen other people do to encourage, whether it's, a book or an activity? I'm just kind of thinking, especially, as, Margaret and I are at these very young stages. One of the things my husband and I are doing now is having conversations about, what kind of world do we want to bring our child up in? How do we want to raise her? How do we want to approach situations, whether it's a diversity and inclusion, what kinds of places are we going to be looking for schools? So I'm just curious if anybody has any input.
And again, feel free to just speak out. You don't have to use the chat box.
Yeah, I'd love to hear from some other people too.
So I see John Magoon said, my daughter's older and pretty aware. She's learned it in school and Girl Scouts. But these will save us. No, it's great. And so like, okay, so like organizations like like Girl Scouts and schools are, I'm really glad to hear that they're, teaching these kinds of things and instilling values and kind of vision. And I also saw that Patrick wrote, sad concept to not have kids, especially all the people that they aren't concerned with the environment will have and raise the next generation.
I think you mentioned that was a good point though, Bridget, about, looking for schools. And, our children are, once they're old enough, are, in school more time than they are with us. So it is really important that you decide. Some people don't have a choice. So that's one thing
Yes.
to really, understand too. But like, if you do have a choice, thinking about like the culture of the school, I'm fortunate that, when my husband bought this house, he wasn't thinking at all about school, but it just so happened that he bought the house around the corner from a school that turned out in the city to be a really amazing school, which unfortunately should not be one of the few schools where we live in Baltimore that's a good school, but it is. And so it's a very welcoming, it's a very inclusive, it's a very community-driven school. And so I think it's important that, so much of what our kids learn is not from us. We can model and we can teach them, especially when they're young, but a lot of times once they get older, a lot of that learning is going to happen from other people, from their peers, and from their teachers. So, like schools that have programs that, we have it's called Food for Life. And so there's a community garden, and there's a nature exploration class, So I think that like when you're thinking about how to raise your children, it's very important to know what kind of community they're going to be surrounded by. We have a guest.
Yes.
Oh,
Rosemary wanted to make an appearance.
I love her hair. She has so much more hair than Joan. I'm jealous.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the first thing everyone notices is like that hair is crazy.
It's adorable. But yeah, Leanna, I totally agree. I think it's such an important thing to consider, and I'm like, I never really thought about it much until like Joan was almost born, and then I was like, oh my gosh, there's a whole nother world of things that I now have to consider and want to consider. So very, very important.
Rachel, you posted a YouTube video. Do you want to either share, unmute, or just type in the chat box what it is?
So it's a clip that I remember watching on Sesame Street when I was a kid. And it's a fish. It's a kid brushing his teeth and washing his hands, but he leaves the water running. And there's a fish outside of his house, and the water is just shrinking and shrinking. And the fish calls him and tells him to please turn the water off when he's doing that. So I showed that to my daughter. I found it on YouTube because everything's on YouTube. And just to emphasize with her, I'm not just telling you turn off the water while you're doing stuff. It's because it impacts somebody else, just so she can like see that video. And she really enjoyed watching that and asks to see it a lot.
Awesome.
Yeah. I feel like there's got to be websites out there that have like all this kind of information accumulated, because now I'm like, oh my gosh, it would be great if I had this whole list of like educational TV episodes, that were particularly focused on whatever I'm interested in. And that's a great point. Thank you for sharing.
There's definitely, and as we talk more and more about racial justice and the intersectionality between race and environment and the inequalities, I think that, the more aware and the more children are seeing differences in inequalities and obviously like, there are age appropriate things and ways to engage your children with these topics. But in terms of lists, there are tons and tons and tons of lists most recently that have come out about the importance of diversity in the stories that our children are seeing, and the heroes and the characters and the colors of their skin, and the different parent makeups, single parents, same-sex parents. So I think like the more broadly that you're exposing your children to those kinds of experiences at a very young age, the more, I think the more compassionate they are. And I think that compassion will then translate to either, fellow humans and the earth. So.
Nicely said.
But I do remember for any of the other, I know Margaret, you're tasked with educating folks on your campus about how to sort waste properly, but we really did try to, we limited screen time with our son, but there were a couple of apps on the iPad that he really enjoyed, and one of them was an actual sorting activity, and you would just the dump truck would dump a bunch of stuff on the street, and you'd have to move it with your finger into the compost, the trash, or the recycling bin. And I was like, man, I really want these for our students at Hopkins. I need to make one like this, but he loved it. So there are also some fun electronic activities that kids can get.
Yeah, that sounds really fun. And I've definitely started keeping a list of books, especially like you're saying with the racial justice conversation that's happening now. I've been seeing a lot more book lists and things for different ages of kids. It seems like there are some environmental justice type books mixed in there, which is nice too.
So it looks like we are actually past our 4:45 time.
Yes.
I didn't know if you had any final questions or polls or.
Before, I do have a couple. If anybody wants to hang on, I want to get to what Jenny just mentioned. But if you have to go, no problem. I'm going to put out our last set of polls out there just to give us a little feedback from today. And Margaret, actually, do you mind stop sharing? And I will my last screen. Thank you. So thank you all for coming. We're going to hang on for a second more, but in case you are interested, next week we'll be talking about the zero waste hierarchy, some more tips, and some upstream solutions, and the true certification in case anybody's interested in learning more about that. I've actually done that. It's really great. And it'll be put on by Celeste McMickle from the USGBC. So definitely join us again next week at 4 o'clock for another one of our sessions. But before we go, I'd love to talk about food, all kinds of food from babies to older children, because from what I've seen personally and seen on TV, kids just continue to eat lots and lots and lots and lots and lots. And yeah, so Margaret, do you have, and are you making your own baby food? Is Rosemary even eating?
Yeah, so we're trying mostly baby-led weaning. So we haven't really gotten to the point of she's just eating what we're eating, but we're kind of cutting up bananas into more of slices. I've made a few purees, just we made a pear puree here, but I have also bought some glass jarred baby food to have on days when we don't feel like making our own. But I like the idea of freezing it in an ice cube tray, because then you can just kind of make it in advance and pop out what you need, because that's an issue we found. You make so much, but she eats 3 spoonfuls. So it's sort of what do I do with the rest of this this pear or banana or whatever it is?
Yeah.
So that's a really good idea.
Jenny or Carol, do you want to chime in and talk about your experiences? Thank you for sharing.
Sure. I could talk a little bit. Can you hear me? Because you're still screen sharing. Do you see me?
Here. Yes, we can.
Okay. Yeah, so I just thought like sweet potatoes were a really easy one, and they're like really tasty. Our son liked those, and we would just make a pot of it, and you don't even need the blender. You can just mash it on the stove and then freeze that. And then as he got older, he still likes sweet potatoes, and we'll just cut it in chunks for him. And then the frozen peas are another good one because it's so cheap. It's like $1 for a bag of peas. And what we would do is buy like a pouch or a little jar of sweet fruit baby food, like mango or something, and then mix it with the peas. So we'd spread out the jar and it would last a long time, you know, because peas, like they may not taste that great.
I love it. We've been doing the same thing. We started with sweet potatoes. That was our first with our daughter, and she loves them. And you're right. You just boil them in your kitchen pot, and we got these ginormous sweet potatoes, and like one ginormous sweet potato will last for like 3 or 4 days. So it's great. Very economical. We done peas. Done carrots. We've cooked carrots and then mashed them. We've made our own like baby fruit cocktails. So we've done pears and apples. Actually, we're making a batch right now where you just literally chop it all up and throw it in a pot and let it boil and then mash it all up. You don't even have to take the skins off. It's great. Frozen bananas. I like that. I really got into the freezing, which has been really helpful for me for waste reduction as well as for my daughter for food. So a win-win there. Anybody else have any tips? Or there's lots of recipes online. I always feel like I forget, but Carol just wrote in the 80s, I did a ton of canning jarring to be care of salmonella, botulism. Can somebody explain botulism? I've heard of it, but I don't really know. Leanna, you're smiling at me.
It's just a bacteria that can form in canned food if it's not sealed properly, or if there's any kind of you know, if the cans aren't the jars aren't sanitized, and it's really hard to know like if it's there, and it's deadly. So it's like you know, like but I think, you know, generally really high acidic foods, which you may not actually be using for baby food, but highly acidic foods, so like, well, fruits and tomatoes and stuff are really highly acidic, and so generally botulism can't survive in there. But you know, if you have, you know, a pressure cooker or whatever, and you clean everything, and you can generally keep everything pretty safe. And you'll know also, like, if the lid doesn't pop when you open it, that's a big sign that it's, you know, didn't have the pressure inside. I think in general, like for most young parents of young kids, time is such a challenge that freezing tends to be the easiest, because canning is like, we have all the time in the world pretty much, and canning takes a lot of effort. It's like a multi-day thing. I mean, if you're really good at it, then I'm sure, but like it seems like and there's, you know, a lot of there can be risk. So as a new parent, it might, you know, might find freezing to be your friend.
Option. I like it. No, but good to know either way. I've actually I think canning would be a good thing to get into later as well. And actually, I've heard a lot of people getting into canning because of the pandemic and having a lot more time to be at home and prepare food.
And you were talking last night about making your own yogurt.
Yes, it's one of the things I really want to try to do. So it's on my list. But what about older kid foods? I mean, okay, Crosby has a very unique palate for a 9-year-old, if I can say that. But I feel like, you know, my sister's 2-year-old son will not like eat anything. And so like they still use a lot of the squeezable pouches. They do a lot of like that kind of stuff, because anytime that they try to like give him whatever they're eating for dinner, it does not end well.
Yeah, I guess, you know, there are There are like different sleep practices, you know, like the cry it out or the, you know, like all these different that we basically took the cry it out method for food.
For
Was
food,
like,
okay, I like it.
you know, you got to try it. And we tried not to like make food. Well, we tried to make food a very positive experience, but we never let him not try something. So he always had to try it, and once or twice in a meal. And we always would repeatedly give it to him. So if he would say like, I don't like it, I didn't like it last time, well, try it again. You have to try it at least 7 times before you can say you absolutely don't like it. And even then, you know, your taste buds change. And so like the other day he was like, I don't like that, but my taste buds may have changed. So I'll try it again, you know? But I also will say that I think there is some truth to passing on affinities for flavors in the womb, because I was obsessed with Korean food when I was pregnant, and I ate a lot of kimchi and a lot of really spicy stuff. And Crosby definitely has a palate for spicy things and other things. But I think like just trying once it's like safe to give them, you know, you have to start early and you have to make a really varied diet from the start. Now, if you don't eat a really varied diet, then it might be kind of hard, but you know, we eat all kinds of stuff. So my nieces still at like 18 and 19, one of them will only eat like macaroni and cheese and hot dogs. And I'm just like, you know, like, and so from the whole time that she was growing up, I'm just like, oh God, like make her eat something else. But yeah, it's just like, it's kind of like one of those things where if you, if it's important to you, then you'll make the sacrifices of having a cranky child, and then they'll like it, or they won't. But like, you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like you're the parent, you know? But that's like, we took a hard tone on food because, you know, my husband's a culinary person. So
Yes.
that was not something he was going to accept.
I guess one of the thing that I'm just kind of getting at is something that's starting as we're starting to actually do more food with my daughter, and it's like packets everywhere. Oh, the packets. And like the I mean, we try to eat whole foods mostly, but you know, we still buy store-made tortilla chips and stuff. And so, but like, oh, just the boxes, and it all comes individually packaged, and I'm like, oh no. I don't have time to make my own like teether bar things. And so, you know, at the end of the day, I know there are TerraCycle programs out there where you can recycle these packets. But I do feel guilty every time I go to the store and buy a new packet.
About the pouches, you can get the silicone refillable ones, and I use those for yogurt. I had a hard time when I tried to blend food; it didn't get pureed fine enough. But I just buy regular Greek yogurt for adults, just plain, and I put that in the pouch. So when he uses the pouches, most of the time it's yogurt.
I actually just saw those in the store the other day. Should I get them? Are they not worth? Okay, cool. I'd like to hear that.
And then another thing my son likes is smoothies. So, because I like smoothies, and he would drink some of mine, but sometimes I'll make a smoothie for him. I put a frozen banana and yogurt and peanut butter, and then some of his powdered oatmeal and milk.
Okay. Like it.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. No.
Anybody know of any toy brands, whether it's for younger kids or older kids, that are low packaging based? One of the things that drives me nuts is like, I know that there are toys made from recycled material, and there's the wood toys, which are awesome, and I love those. But like, one of the things that I haven't been able to find is toys that just come with low packaging, because usually it's like the toy and then some like plastic film thing on the front, and then like cardboard and a whole bunch of wire tags. Green toys are in cardboard. I like that, yes. This is my personal gripe.
They make like cute little cards and like tea sets and dishes and stuff.
Yeah. I think that that'll be on the list of recommendations for the parents and moms. Well, I want to be cognizant of everyone's time. Oh, Carol, thank you. I will check it out. Of everyone's time. So thank you all for joining us today. Thank you so much to Margaret for putting together this presentation, and hello, Rosemary. Baby Joe is still sleeping. Thank goodness. I'll take to get up because she's got to go to bed soon. So I gotta go be a baby. But thank you all so much. I hope you enjoyed this, and we'll join us again next week. And have a thank you, Carol, safe holiday as well. Good evening.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Margaret.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Jenny.